Carolina Insider is presented by Wells Fargo, official sponsor of Carolina Athletics.
We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Jones and Adam here with you, and we have a terrific 30 minutes or so coming up. Thanks so much for joining us. The show presented by Wells Fargo. When our communities need us, Wells Fargo is here to help. And let's start with Carolina football. Adam, 56-24. Carolina holds on to the victory bell in pretty dominant fashion last week in Durham against Duke. If you take out that one possession where Carolina had 1 second when it received the football right before halftime, the Tar Heels scored touchdowns on their first 7 possessions of the game and just never really let Duke into the contest.
Very efficient offensive performance. If you listen to Tuesday's audio pod, you know we wanted to have the victory bell here.
Yeah.
We've learned 2 things since then. Number 1, if you look around, there's not really any room for the victory bell. Number 2, it's really
right here. It wouldn't have fit.
But we can't lift it up that high because, Jones, the victory bell is really heavy.
Yeah, it is.
Did you know that?
Yes.
I did not know that, but it is.
Adam.
Think about when you see pictures of it being pulled off the field and there's like 4 or 5 football players pulling the victory bell. It's because it's heavy.
Yeah.
Who knew? So you just have to imagine the victory bell here as the spoils for Carolina's win over Duke. A great performance for the Tar Heel offense, a great performance for the Tar Heel ground game. Javonte Williams continues to get some national attention for his performance, but Jones not getting quite as much attention from the ACC just yet.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and got this tweet from R.L. Bynum this past week about there's Javonte Williams leading the nation in total touchdowns, 14 of them rushing, 17 total, 3rd in the conference in yards per game on average, and yet he has not once been deemed the finest running back of the week for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, of course, Michael Carter, you know, the fact that they're both having such successful years for the Tar Heels, maybe that's part of it, but you would think Javonte Williams would have earned that at least once. He averaged more than 12 yards per carry and had 4 touchdowns this past week against Duke, but not quite good enough. But certainly good enough, along with Michael Carter, Sam Howell, and the rest of the Tar Heels, to put on a really spectacular performance offensively. And Adam, quickly before we move forward, it also felt important that it wasn't just the offense. Carolina's defense was active, forced 2 turnovers, got into the backfield. The special teams was solid, and if those 2 phases of the game continue to progress, then Carolina really can do something pretty cool here over the last few weeks of the season.
And Carolina able to play some younger players for more snaps on defense, which will pay dividends perhaps this week against Wake Forest, perhaps down the road. But exciting to see those younger players get a chance, and quite honestly also not just get the chance but produce when they do so.
Yeah.
So that's promising for the Tar Heel defense, as the defense still, obviously the offense is clicking. The defense still trying to work out a few things, and those young players will be a big part of it.
And so turning the page for the Heels, it is a noon kick for Carolina and Wake Forest. 3 of the 4 final games of the season for the Tar Heels will be at home, including this matchup with the Demon Deacons. You see it there, available TV-wise on the ACC network. Radio-wise, we'll be on the air at 11 a.m. to help get you ready for that 12 o'clock kick. And Adam, this is a very good Wake Forest team, a team that has won 4 in a row after losing its first 2. Now, its first 2 games with Clemson and then a tight loss against NC State. The Deacs are coming off a bye week, so they've had some extra time to get healthy and prepare for the Tar Heels. And it's a team that beat Carolina a season ago. 24-18 was that final, and you just mentioned the offense. Certainly Carolina's offense better now than it was when these 2 teams played a year ago. But having said that, Wake's defense really got the better of things in that game. Heels had 18 points, 333 yards. Clearly those very low numbers compared to what the Tar Heels now expect from that side.
Well, and Mac Brown referenced it almost immediately with you after the Duke game. He's talked about it quite a bit this week, how much more physical he feels like Wake Forest was than Carolina in that game last year, where I think Carolina went into Winston-Salem feeling pretty good about themselves, hadn't had a lot of success up to that point, but they program-wise, but they were feeling good about the season, and Wake just pushed them around at Grove Stadium. And so we'll see, but that has clearly been a point of emphasis this week, and I would expect Carolina to play better. The offensive line is the reigning team player of the week. They gave the player of the week award to the offensive line as a whole from the Tar Heels, and they'll need to be big to open some of those holes and keep Sam Howell clean in the pocket.
Wake can run the football, too. They have two good running backs, two guys both ranked in the top 10 in the league as far as yards per game, and Kenneth Walker and Christian Beal-Smith. Good football team. They'll be excited to come see the Tar Heels as well. Carolina will need to match that. Again, it is noon. ACC Network as far as TV is concerned on Saturday. Tar Heel Sports Network, radio-wise, we're on the air at 11 a.m. for the 12 o'clock game. All right, Adam, a lot of other stuff going on and a lot of successful stuff to talk about for the Tar Heels. Let's start off with field hockey. And for the 23rd time, including the 4th consecutive year, the Tar Heels are ACC champions, including avenging their only loss of the season to Louisville. Their only loss in the last 3 years came in the regular season this year against Louisville. Tar Heels defeated the Cardinals for the championship, and just more winning for Carolina field hockey.
What a satisfying win over Louisville to be down early in the championship game and come back to win 4-2. You can probably guess, if you're a regular podcast listener or viewer, who won ACC tournament MVP. It was Erin Matson. You probably guessed that. But of course, she had a great tournament, MVP of the event, and also a great weekend for Karen Shelton, who will join us later in the show. She now is the sports all-time winningest coach. She now has 702 wins. She got that 701st win when the Tar Heels defeated Syracuse in the semifinals. So another Carolina coach at the very top of their profession.
Coach Shelton passed Nancy Stevens for that all-time win total. 702 career victories. Congratulations to Karen Shelton and Carolina field hockey. And as Adam mentioned, of course, we have Coach Shelton coming up in our interview segment in just a minute. Let's go from there to another program, Adam, that has really started to have consistent national success, and that is the Tar Heel women's tennis program. Of course, their season coming up in the spring, but this time of year in the fall is the ITA, not the NCAA, but the ITA, the indoor championships, and another title for the Carolina women's program there, this time an individual championship.
And it's Alexa Graham who becomes the second straight Tar Heel to win this event. Sarah Davatilla won it last year. 3 Tar Heels overall have won it. And Alexa Graham continues to have just a great career for Carolina. She's a 5-time All-America. She's been a part of 2 team indoor titles. So Alexa Graham having a great season, and this season kind of an unusual one as she's back, part of a loaded women's tennis team that'll compete for NCAA honors in the spring. She's back for her 5th year as one of those seniors who was impacted by the virus and able to come back, along with Davatilla and McKenna Jones, who's joined us on the audio pod before. Roy Williams helping make all that possible.
All right, let's go from women's tennis to the 2 soccer programs. They are both in the midst of ACC tournament action, and the women's team already on to the semifinals of the ACC tournament. They had a goal from Brianna Pinto to top Virginia Tech, 1-0 in the quarterfinals. This tournament being held in Cary, North Carolina. The Heels back in action versus Virginia. That is Friday at 8 o'clock on the ACC network. That the women's team will move on again against Virginia in the semis. Meanwhile, for the guys, they are the number 2 seed in the South. That's the way the league was broken up this year after topping Duke 2-0 on Friday. The men's team will face Notre Dame in the quarterfinal. That is Sunday at 2 o'clock on the ACC network. So the women semifinal Friday, 8 o'clock, ACC network. Men Sunday, 2 o'clock, ACC network for the quarterfinal of the ACC tournament. Adam, it is almost time for basketball as well, and with just under 2 weeks to go for the start of the season, everybody felt it was time to put out the schedule. So we are excited about that. And Adam, Heels have a tough schedule, no doubt about that. In addition to playing in the Maui Invitational, which is in Asheville this year with a bunch of good teams, a tough assignment in the ACC Big Ten Challenge as Carolina will face Iowa, a top 10 team in the preseason, on the road. Ohio State in Cleveland for the CBS Sports Classic. And then you get to the ACC, Adam. First 2 league games on the road. Carolina playing Duke twice, Florida State twice, only playing Virginia once, the ACC preseason poll first place, Virginia. Carolina only gets to play them once, and that's in Charlottesville, so really difficult schedule for the Heels.
Imagine what it's going to be like 10 or 12 years from now when you're trying to describe this basketball schedule to people, and you say, so Carolina was in the Maui Invitational, but it was in Asheville.
In Asheville, yeah. Makes
total sense. But this is a very tough schedule, both the non-conference portion and the conference portion. There's some numbers and analytics out there that suggest that Carolina's conference portion may be the toughest of anybody in the league. Didn't get a lot of breaks with the home and homes and with the road onlys, which is usually how you figure out how tough your schedule is. Couple tough Saturday, Monday turnarounds, which are going to be especially tough given the travel and testing that is going to have to be done this year. So going to be a tough schedule, but you know what? Carolina's got some good players. So.
Yep.
Roll the balls out here in less than a couple weeks, as Jones said, and let's see what they got.
Preseason poll, Virginia chosen first, Duke second, Florida State third, and then Carolina fourth in the preseason ACC poll. And speaking of the preseason polls, Adam, the preseason ACC Player of the Year, someone that we know well, a frequent visitor on the Carolina Insider audio podcast. Great to see Garrison Brooks continue his career arc of just getting better and better every year, and now getting recognized for that as the preseason Player of the Year.
What a career arc for little Jerb, as he was just a basically unknown podcast to now ACC preseason Player of the Year. Great honor for him. I think he is already prepared for this, and Tar Heel fans should prepare themselves for this. I don't know that his numbers are going to be as big as they were last year, because Carolina has more around him this year. He may not have to do as much, but still an absolutely essential part. Definitely going to provide that senior leadership that Roy Williams depends on with a very young team around him.
All right, before we get to our conversation with Karen Shelton, also, Adam, need to mention that the women's basketball schedule is out as well. The women's team will start just like the guys on November 25th, and a challenging schedule for the ladies as well.
You got to have a flow chart to keep up with how the ACC does each sport, but in women's basketball, there are three regions. Carolina's in the Central with Duke, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. And the Tar Heels going to play 5 ACC games before January 1st. Courtney Banghart likewise has a team filled with newcomers, but she's excited about them and thinks this is going to be a good team. And they're picked, depending on which poll you're looking at, in the top third of the ACC. So women's basketball should be a quality squad as well.
And just signed the number 2 national recruiting class as well for players that will be freshmen next season for Carolina women's basketball. All right, Karen Shelton. She's the best. She is the best field hockey coach ever to do it here in the United States, and we're lucky enough to have her in Chapel Hill as the head coach of the Tar Heels, and we're lucky enough earlier to catch up with Coach Shelton here on the Carolina Insider.
As we so often do when we introduce our next guest, we'll describe her as an Atlantic Coast Conference champion because Karen Shelton and Carolina Field Hockey just won the program's 23rd ACC championship this past weekend in Chapel Hill. Coach, congratulations. How did the fall 2020 Tar Heels win the ACC title?
Well, it was a lot of hard work, and a difficult season, to be honest with you. But first of all, we love 23. It's such a nice number, right?
That's right.
We all Tar Heels love that number 23, so we get to live with that for a year. But it was a difficult year with COVID and just, the isolation of the team and, testing all the time and the protocols and how we had to split up our meetings to keep everybody safe and distanced. So, and we had our ups and downs, in terms of how we were getting along and then having a loss and then not, having the ACC tournament that was supposed to be at Duke, and we find out a week before that it is coming to Carolina. And so anyway, we're thrilled that we had the opportunity, and I'm proud of our team for rallying like they did. To win it was difficult. 3 games in 4 days against really good teams. So,
Coach, you mentioned Carolina fell to Louisville in the regular season, then eventually beat the Cardinals for the ACC championship this year. First time in a long time that you guys had suffered a defeat. What was the response to that when it had been so long?
Well, it was fine, and I think Louisville benefited a little bit from the scheduling.
Sure.
So we played them our second game of the season, and we had played at Wake, but they were at home, and they were at home, I think, their first 5 games. So they were fortunate, and I think they started before everyone else. But we came in our second game, and we weren't ready for them. They were good, and they pressed us hard. And we had just gotten some kids back from quarantine, and we just weren't ready. We weren't prepared to play, the top team in the conference. And so we battled, but our goal after that game was to have the opportunity to play them again, and that came about late in the season.
You're talking to Carolina field hockey when they reference, we had that loss.
Yeah,
that one. And everyone immediately knows which one you're talking about. So, Coach, you've won the ACC championship, but we know Carolina field hockey competes and wins national championships. How does this work moving forward into the spring as you compete on a national level?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but these games carry over. So we won the ACC tournament, which gets us an automatic ticket into the conference playoff game. So the top 2 teams in the conference will play a 1-game right to get the automatic qualification into the NCAA tournament. So it relieves some pressure for us all season long. We know we're in that game, so everybody else has to fight to be number 1 or number 2. If we're number 1, we play number 2, and so that's good. The championship itself is 12 teams instead of 16. 10 of those 12s will be conference automatics with only 2 at large. So it makes it a tough tournament to get into. Got to win your conference or be one of the top 2 teams in the country.
And so, Coach, just so people understand, there will be a spring season. You guys will compete against conference teams. So you're playing several games in the spring as well.
That's absolutely right. We're playing a conference round robin, so we'll play 6 teams in the conference and 1 or 2 at-large, not at-large, but regular non-conference is what I want to say, non-conference opponents.
Coach, you have been so successful for such a long time at Carolina. What challenges did you have this year with COVID or anything else that really made you go, okay, I've never had anything like this before. Let me try to figure out how to be successful even with this.
Well, just my own personal self-isolation.
Sure.
I had the responsibility of not infecting our team. I didn't want to be the one. And so, just making sure that I was staying distance from everyone. And I know the kids were doing the same thing, and they committed. It was a tough year for any student athlete competing. Now, the upside was we got to compete, and they got to do something that they loved and that was a bit normal. So I'm thrilled that the conference committed to it, and I felt safe the entire time in terms of our testing protocols and what we were doing. So again, we made the best of the situation. And I think our stadium lent itself to us being able to handle it probably better than most teams, just because of our space. So some of our meetings, we were in 3 separate locations. So we do it by Zoom. Yeah. So we'd have a group upstairs, a group downstairs, a group in the locker room. But they were all hearing the same message, and that was important.
Okay, now, Coach, after your most recent national championship, you and Aaron Matson were nice enough to join us on the audio podcast. That's when we got on board the Aaron Matson fan club train.
Absolutely.
At that time, a challenge was issued. And Jones was, we've had some COVID issues. I'm not sure if you're aware.
You're
so
right,
Jones is still on board to suit up in the goalkeeper gear and attempt to stop 10 shots from Aaron Matson. Now that we're a year down the road in Aaron's development as a player, and we've seen some of her goals this year thanks to the ACC network, they're ridiculous. What is your estimate now out of 10 shots? How many will Jones stop when he's able to suit up against Aaron Matson? If she's trying 100%.
Can I get 1?
If she's trying 100%, Jones, unless you've been training on your own.
Yeah, you don't know. Maybe I've been training. So this is going to happen, by the way. We were waiting for we're waiting for the season to be complete, which the fall season is now, so that we can make sure that all the gear and stuff is totally clean, that we're COVID-free, and then Aaron and I are going to make this happen. So be on the lookout. It is going to happen.
I got the impression Aaron was going to let him maybe stop 1.
No.
What's your call? How many is he going to stop? Just
She's too good of a competitor.
Listen, I know Aaron Matson. She's going to score every one if she can.
That's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. And it's always fun to talk with Karen Shelton. Coach, congratulations again on being a champion yet again in a difficult season. And hey, it's kind of neat. We get to see you again here soon on the field. Get to see you in a couple months.
Yeah, well, we're excited about it. It's fun to compete, and I just love this team. And we achieved 1 goal, and we're going to try and achieve another big one coming up.
Absolutely the best field hockey coach in the United States. That's Karen Shelton joining us here on the Carolina Insider. Always great to catch up with Coach Shelton. Don't you worry, the Aaron Madsen Challenge will occur. I'm ready for it. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but it will occur. And our conversation, by the way, always brought to you by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola tastes better together and is a proud partner of Carolina Athletics. All right, get your hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel because it is time for, that is not 10 and 2, for the social drive here on the show. And Adam, let's start with a couple of fundraising things that are going on around Carolina Athletics, and we'll start with the recently announced Victory Fund. Of course, everybody going through some challenging times right now, and this is a great way for Carolina fans, if able and willing, to help out Carolina Athletics.
We all know Carolina Athletics and athletic departments in general have some challenges right now. This is an initiative the Rams Club's come up with to help bridge that gap just a little bit. We'd really encourage you to click on that link and learn more about it and participate if you can, because all these great teams that we've been talking about during the first half of the show, Rams Club helps make it all possible. And so if you want to help continue to make all those victories, all those championships possible, that's the best way to do it.
All right, if you were with us in the spring, you might remember this story. We'll give you the quick Cliff Notes version. Dylan Sorensen, who is part of the track and field coaching staff here at Carolina, broke a world record in the spring. It was the time that it took to run 1 mile while dribbling a basketball. He did it in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I then took up that challenge. I ran it, no big deal, Adam, in 7 minutes and 37 seconds, just a scant 3 minutes less than an actual person who dedicates his life to running. Adam, please, no big deal about that. But that record for Dylan has since been broken. So now Dylan is going to try and break it again, and he is also asking you to maybe give a little money as well to the Forever Her campaign here at Carolina that helps fund Carolina women's athletics. Adam and I had a chance to speak with Dylan. He is going to be one of our guests on the Friday version of the audio podcast this week. We had a chance to talk to Dylan. Want to let you see just a second of that where he explains a little bit more.
We are going after the basketball mile world record, which right now stands at 4 minutes, 33.75 seconds. And we are going to see how much we can break that by on November 18th at 3 p.m. at the UNC Finley Fields outdoor track. Additionally, I would love it if you could help me in raising money for this phenomenal campaign that the Rams Club has started called Forever Tar Heels by donating $15 or way more. I'm going to donate way more, I promise, if I break the world record to symbolize the 15 sports that are the female sports here at the University of North Carolina.
Awesome job. Dylan, real fast. What could you run a mile if you weren't dribbling a basketball?
That's a good question, but I would say I could flirt with 4 minutes right now.
Whoa!
So again, that should be really fun. Dylan, and once we were done recording, Adam, Dylan said he wasn't looking just to break this record. He wanted to quote him, smash it.
Yeah, the current record is 4:33 and some change, as we say in the running world. I think Dylan's going sub 4:30 and really hope that you can be a part of what he's doing to help out for Her Tar Heels. And you can find out more information about that also at ramsclub.com.
All right, one more charity aspect that we want to mention. There is a food drive going on, and the weather hadn't been great for it, but there are some drop-offs right there in front of the Smith Center. And Adam asking Tar Heel fans to be generous if they can.
We've seen, just as we've been sitting here doing various podcast things, lots of folks pulling up and putting some food in the containers outside the Smith Center, so hope you'll be able to be part of that through the end of the day tomorrow, Friday.
All right. Adam, we forgot to do this last week. I was hoping that we would forget to do this, period, but we have remembered to do it.
I feel like since we've asked people to give us some things in the first part of the social drive, now we need to give them something back that they'll cherish.
Okay, you may remember a couple weeks ago, I was part of the Raise a Racket campaign where we were trying to raise money for the UNC Children's Hospital. The goal that particular week was $8,000 in donations. If we hit that goal that week, we were going to release me doing a TikTok dance out there to the world. We hit the goal. The video's been out there, but I've successfully been able to keep it off the video pod until today, so let's go ahead and run it. All right, we promised. We hit our $8,000 donation goal. So, since you hit that goal, it's TikTok time. My daughter, Caroline, she's been teaching me a TikTok dance. We're just gonna let it rip here.
I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet. Sassy, moody, nasty. Acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, back. I'm a savage.
I don't appreciate this part. I don't appreciate the replay. Wasn't once enough, really?
What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet.
Yeah, it was.
Sassy, moody,
Yeah.
nasty. Hacking, stupid. What's happening?
You know what, Adam? That was special. That was special. Hey, do you need anything? You need any lessons?
Not from you. When your daughter watched it back, once she went to the tape,
Yeah.
how did she grade your performance? Because she's
Not good, Adam. It wasn't good. I tried, and it was for charity. So thank you for everybody who gave to help a great cause in the UNC Children's Hospital. Adam, that's what we should focus on here, not anything else. Your generosity in helping the UNC Children's Hospital. Thank you. All right, moving on. Bryce Johnson, former guest on the Carolina Insider Audio podcast. Of course, we remember Bryce, former Tar Heel, had such a great year, particularly in his final year in 2016. And Adam, Bryce has a new home, at least a new temporary home.
Temporary home in the Ukraine, as Bryce is now signed to play overseas. He was on the September 11th, 2020 Carolina Insider Audio podcast.
That was a great interview.
Really suggest you go back and listen to that one if you missed it the first time around. He talks about all sorts of things and was very honest with us. It was also interesting to hear him talk about playing overseas and how that has and has not worked out for him, now knowing that he is back in the Ukraine. So September 11th, 2020, that's a really good interview. Go back and listen to it if you haven't already.
And we've been lucky here recently, had a bunch of former Tar Heels from the basketball side of things joining us on the audio podcast. Just recently, in the last 2 weeks or so, we've had Cameron Johnson join us. Cam coming off such a strong end to his rookie year with the Phoenix Suns. Also had Kobe White join us here recently. Kobe coming off a second-team All-NBA rookie team for his first year with the Chicago Bulls. And Adam, anytime you mention Cam Johnson, Kobe White, plus the NBA draft coming up next week on Wednesday the 18th, and Cole Anthony expected to be a first-round choice there. Anytime those things all come together, it gives us an excuse to run this video from last year's NBA draft.
Caleb, CBS Sports Radio, WFAN. Cameron Johnson just went 11th. How do you react to that news?
He went what?
11th.
Cam
in
Johnson
the draft.
went 11th.
Yep. It's right on the screen right there.
Wow. Wow. Wow, bro. That's crazy. That's so love, bro. Because if y'all know Cam, you don't know how hard Cam worked. And, you know, it's a lot of people that doubt him. But, wow, bro, that's crazy, bro. Wow, that's so crazy. I'm so happy for him right now. Y'all don't understand how happy I am for Cam. Because he proved it night in, night out that he deserves to be, you know, in the conversation for a lottery pick, man. He shot the ball like anyone I've never seen before in my life or played with. So I'm wow, bro. I'm getting chills up here.
Oh, Adam, we love Kobe White. What a great summary of Kobe White and of what Carolina basketball is all about.
I get chills watching Kobe White get chills. And we asked Cam Johnson about that on the audio pod, which of course you should go back and listen to. And he said that reaction from Kobe White, a great example of Kobe White and a great example of what Carolina basketball does to you when you're a part of it. I thought that was a great way to put it.
Adam, let's go in the Wayback Machine here for another basketball highlight. Of course, Carolina playing Wake Forest on the football field this weekend, but this made its way out there on the College Basketball Classics Twitter account this past week. Back in the mid-'90s, man, Carolina and Wake, that was a big rivalry in 95, 96 in that time period, and have some good old footage here from the Smith Center. Let's take a look and listen.
Clash, big one between number 9 Wake Forest and number 11 North Carolina. Demon Deacons up by 18 in the second half. There he is, Tim Duncan jams it down, 22 for Dave Odom's star. Don't count out the heels though. Jeff McInnes with the runner. Carolina up by 1. 8 seconds left. Carolina up by 4. Loose ball. McInnes gets it. Vince Carter on his way to the hole. And North Carolina wins at 65.
Carolina got the win, big comeback in that particular game. There were some battles in the mid-90s between those two teams.
2 all-time moments in that clip. Number 1, the kind of unique Dave Odom reaction to a good Demon Deacon play. And then 2, an all-time punctuation mark to a big win with the lob to Vince Carter for just your average Vince Carter reverse alley-oop slam that he then punctuates by punching his way down the court. Those are 2 all-time Carolina Wake Forest moments.
All right, let's wrap things up here. Last couple of things on the social drive. And Adam, I want to start off with, we've mentioned a bunch of guests that we've had recently on the audio podcast, and actually on the same one in which Kobe White joined us, which was earlier this week, came out on Tuesday of this week. We were also joined by Dean Meggie. Dean is an assistant strength coach for Carolina football, but also a former Army paratrooper. And with Veterans Day being earlier this week, we thought it was a great time to talk to Dean, and he has some really cool stories about both football and the military.
Really enjoyed being able to hear from Dean, and especially about kind of what the Veterans Day celebrations meant to not just him, but to his family. I had never really thought about it that way, and it was really interesting to hear how he put it.
Speaking of Tar Heel football, some more success in the NFL this past weekend. Eric Ebron and, hey, Mac Hollins with touchdowns this past week. Let's take a look and listen.
This would be a point where you can let him score for Dallas. With all 3, you're trying to protect it, make him kick a field goal.
Ebron hurdles home for the touchdown. He jumped right over Savion Smith, and the Steelers have taken the lead.
Looking end zone, he's got a man in for the touchdown. What a drive by Tua and the Dolphins.
Great job by Mac Hollins. That was his first catch as a Miami Dolphin there in the end zone, and what was a big win for the Dolphins against the Cardinals this past weekend. So congratulations to both those guys. Eric Ebron having a terrific year with the Steelers. All right, we're going to finish things up here with a pretty neat story that we discussed on Tuesday on the audio podcast. We wanted to show some of the visual evidence of this story on the show to wrap things up. Please explain. This is cool.
You need to tune into Tuesday's audio pod so that you can hear the full story time behind this. But Susan Yowd sent us this quilt that she made because, like many of us at some point in our lives, she had a Duke fan friend. It happens to everybody. And they asked her to make a quilt out of some of these t-shirts that you see here, some of which include things featuring the Blue Devils. Well, Susan knew she couldn't just make a 100% Duke quilt, so she snuck in, as you see there, the little Tar Heel foot logo on the inside of the quilt. And so this Duke fan friend who has told her they love watching games while they cover up with their Duke quilt doesn't know secretly there's a Tar Heel in that Duke quilt. So little Trojan horse from Susan Yowd right there, teaching those Duke fans a lesson.
That was a really great job by Susan, both with the actual stitch work, but then also the idea. Good work, Susan. Excellent. All right, Adam, before we get out of here, Carolina Wake, it is noon on Saturday. Again, we're on the air at 11 a.m. And as we do here on the Carolina Insider, we're going to give away a couple of tickets. How can people get these pair of tickets to see the Heels and the Deeks?
We've got 2 tickets to Saturday's game. As Jones said, it's going to be at noon, so you know Carolina's going to play well. Here's what we want you to do. Everybody's got that Tar Heel football player who really made them fall in love with Carolina football. Like, Jones, who's yours?
Natron Means, hands down.
I knew he was going to say that. So everybody's got that player. We want you to leave a comment if you're watching on Facebook or reply if you're watching on Twitter. Tell us who was your guy. Who made you fall in love with Tar Heel football? Put a picture in there if you've got a picture from Meet the Heels Day, back when we used to be able to do that, or something like that. Put a picture in if you've got it, and just let us know, and we'll pick the one we like the best on Friday's audio pod. We'll announce the winner, and that person will get 2 tickets to go watch the Tar Heels and the Deeks.
Make sure you add hashtag Carolina Insider as well, so that we can make sure that we follow along and get all those submissions from you. So put a hashtag Carolina Insider, and then that Tar Heel guy. Who's yours, Adam?
I would have probably said Natron Means too, but I didn't want to copy you.
Yeah, that's as per usual. Adam's just following my lead. So, and if you have, even if it's just like an old just a picture you find of like Dre Black picking off a pass or whatever it is. Add the picture if you can. Tell us who that Tar Heel is. Add hashtag Carolina Insider.
Might be a game. Like I'd say 93 Peach Bowl. To me, like that's the one where I thought I just can't get enough of this Carolina football. Maybe it's a game instead of a person.
Yeah, just let us know. We'll pick one, and whoever we pick is going to the game. That'll be fun. Carolina Wake Forest. It is Saturday at noon. We'll be on the air radio-wise at 11. TV-wise, it's on ACC Network. All right, we've been with you for a while. It's time to say goodbye. Thanks for joining us here on the Carolina Insider.
See you later, Big Grit.